Welcome back to another episode of Decoded, a Lost Codex podcast. I am your host, Jesse, the writer, director, or narrator for the Lost Codex episodes. And today we have a new co-host, someone who's never been here before and hopefully will come back again. Allow me to introduce Zuanich. Welcome, Zuanich, to Decoded.
Hello.
Now, Zuanich is a friend of mine. We didn't actually meet at BlizzCon last year, now that I think about it. But it was right after BlizzCon.
Yes.
We met through Zillions, our brand manager, my brand manager. She's the brand manager for Final Boss TV, the Lost Codex, the Daily Grind, and a whole bunch of other content creators. She has her own esports team, now that I think about it. But Zillions introduced us, and right around Christmas time, the Lost Codex was doing a lot of group streams, and Zuanich was part of that. So welcome to Decoded. Why don't you tell a little bit about who you are, what you do? All that stuff.
Well, I'm just your go happy streamer. I stream a lot of World of Warcraft. Right now, with Prepatch coming in and BFA starting, there's been a little bit of a slow part. So lots of random variety games, a little bit of Overwatch, touching that HOTS a little bit, and a little bit of WoW-centered Sims 4 if you're into some strange things.
I did open up Twitch last night, and I'm pretty sure I saw Kil'jaeden cooking dinner. And I saw Sylvanas there as well in Sims, so that was interesting to open to on Twitch. We'll have all the links to Zuanich's Twitch page and all social medias at the end of the podcast, but also in the description below on YouTube. Now, this is episode 13 of Decoded. We've been doing this for 13 weeks. Holy moly. And this is going to be the last podcast ever. No, I'm kidding. Last podcast of Legion, because 8.0 launches on Tuesday.
Woo!
And we are less than 48 hours away from the launch of the pre-patch, which means if you have not gotten your Mage Tower, your Chosen Trial of Valor, Mythic Achievement, Heroic Argus, or First Aid Field Medic, your time's ticking. You need to go do that right now. Are you feeling the pressure of 8.0? Is there anything you need to get done before it launches? So
Everything. Oh my goodness. No, I've done all the Mage Towers that I've wanted. I would love to get the Chosen title. It was a big thing to try to get Chosen, especially for a lot of raiders if you didn't already have it, not mainly for the title, but for a while. Getting that armor set, because it wasn't soulbound, was a huge deal because it was supposed to become unobtainable in the next expansion, but since they changed the coding on that item, it's been less of a desire of mine. But I've gotten my field medic, I've got my spell wing, got the mage towers that I want. It's just that Chosen sitting there haunting me.
What about the coding did they change about the armor set?
They just made it soulbound. It's basically bind on pickup. So before it was a kind of like a use item where it wasn't soulbound. You could put it on the auction house if you really wanted to, but they changed the item, so now it's
I was gonna say, I know there's a little bit of confusion about the armor set because they did mention the achievement, but they didn't mention the armor set, and some could argue because they're taking away the achievement and the armor set is tied to the achievement that you can assume the armor's being taken out. But specifically with armor in game, when Blizzard takes out a set of armor like the challenge modes for Mists or the weapons and warlords or the mage towers, they're very clear on what's being taken out, yet they haven't been clear on the Trial of Valor armor. The achievement and the title they've been very clear on. The armor they're not. So I'm kind of curious, what are they going to do? It's weird that they've been kind of silent on that when they've been so adamant about telling us about the mage towers and the warlords weapons when that dropped and Mists of Pandaria. So I'm curious. Maybe the Trial of Valor armor will just be put on Mythic and it'll be a very low chance. Who knows?
They definitely could. They could make it a Helya drop, or if they really wanted to, they could get tricky and spread the pieces out throughout the mythic drops of each boss, but that would just be cruel because then you're rolling against a bunch of RNG.
I know for a fact that you can get all of the pieces except for your helm and your shoulders off of that set just from regular item drops. So all they got to do is add the shoulders and helm as obtainable items, or even just the items from the actual from the item set itself, and put it in game, and that way something like that won't be lost. But for me, these next few hours are going to be about gearing some of my characters for the Mage Tower. I'm getting some of those last second runs in. Heroic Argus, I'm not going to get my Heroic Argus run. Field Medic, couldn't care about the first aid Field Medic. I know it's a lengthy grind. It's a really cool title. I want it, but it's just at this point, I put it off too long, and I don't think I will get the Chosen Trial of Valor title or achievement. But for those who want them, you have until Monday, I guess Tuesday morning when the servers go down. So don't delay. Get those Mage Towers done. Get all that stuff done, because I want to say 36 hours. I don't want to do the math right now, but it is coming fast. The pre-patch is on its way. Anyone who's worried about the Violet Spellwing from Argus, I thought that was being taken out in the pre-patch. Apparently, it's not.
Oh.
I was talking to one of the guys from the Perky Pug stream group, and I said, like, dude, the Perky Pugs event is after the pre-patch going live. And he goes, yeah, the spell bird is still in game after the patch drops. And apparently on their website, on the blog that kind of prepped everyone on what you need to get finished now, right, there's mention of the spell bird being live until August 13th. So once the servers go live for Battle for Azeroth on August 13th, the Spellbird will no longer be obtainable. And apparently that was the case for the Moose Mount as well. I don't remember, but do you remember the Moose Mount and when it was taken out of game?
That's where I was about to ask you, actually, because that Moose Mount still haunts me. I did not have a guild back then, so I had no friends to run that Moose Mount, and it haunts me till this day because I did it till it was the last day available, and I'm trying to remember so hard. And I think I've just naturally blocked out that memory because it's so awful.
That is a dark time for Zuanich. We can't talk about Moose Mounts on this. Not when she's here, at least.
Don't come up to me with your Moose Mount because I will shun you.
So, part of me thinks that the Moose Mount was actually supposed to be taken out in the pre-patch, but it didn't. It stayed in game until the actual live of Legion. And that might have been a mistake, but maybe that's Blizzard's reasoning for keeping the Spellbird. Now they're communicating, and now they're saying, according to the blog, according to this the image I saw, it said that the Spellbird is still available until August 13th. So you can still get your mount off of Heroic Argus, but your time is ticking on that too. In other news this week, I do believe this is the first time ever that it's happened, but the Collector's Edition for the next expansion has been put up on the Blizzard Gear Store, which they have never, ever done before. And that's interesting because at this point, Blizzard, anyone who wants the Collector's Edition has already pre-ordered it or bought the digital version. And I guess I'm curious as to why they put it on the Blizzard store. Most people would like that in hand on day one, but Blizzard doesn't have a store that you can visit, so it's going to take a while to ship. So I'm just curious, maybe, I don't know. What do you think about that? Is it not weird? Is it not weird to you? Like, it's just, I'm happy because, if places don't have like a GameStop or a Target or anything near them, they can order from the Blizzard store without having to wait 6 weeks from Amazon. But I'm not upset about it. I was just very surprised to see that it was on the Gear Store.
Right. I just wonder what would have delayed Blizzard from putting any previous ones on the Blizzard store. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're thinking from a perspective of people who are going to buy this expansion and want to play it that like day, that hour that game comes out. But I think they're just really making it available for anybody who just wants to order it online casually and wait to get their box and just order it from Blizzard like anything
Wait.
else that Blizzard offers. I know, crazy people, right?
Who's
But
gonna wait?
it is an
I can't.
option. I
I
just,
can't wait to read the little books inside. Who's gonna wait for that? No one's gonna wait.
you're right. But it is just an option as it is one of their products. It doesn't strike me as weird for them to put it up there. I just wonder why they haven't done it before, but
I guess weird was the wrong word. For me, it's they've never done it. Like that's the main point. They've never done it before, and it's kind of like this is okay. You know what? Cool, good job, Blizzard. Um, then the last bit of news we have to cover before we launch into the topic, which I haven't even said what the topic is, but Blizzard announced that legendaries are going to be giving a little bit of a change in the pre-patch, taken directly from their posts. They say, they being Blizzard, with the Battle for Azeroth pre-patch, you'll notice that the vendor who sold tokens that granted a random Legion legendary item will now allow you to purchase specific Legion legendaries relevant to your specialization. These are sold for the same cost that the token was sold for previously, and all artifact power tokens, world quests, are going to be turned into the essences that you use to buy these legendaries. So no longer all the world quests out there are no longer going to be basically giving you a 25 gold token. They're going to be giving you the essences for your legendaries. So anyone who wants to complete the set or because there's some legendaries that have like a little bit of a unique transmog. So I guess this is to help with the leveling process for alts or for characters going into Battle for Azeroth, which is it's kind of part of me wishes they had done this now so I can get geared for the Mage Tower, but that's probably one of the main reasons they haven't done it now.
yeah.
So I thought that was interesting, a little bit of a easier way to get legendaries, but that's a whole nother controversial topic.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of people that are wondering, well, Blizzard, why'd you just do this now? This was such a good idea earlier. There's a lot of, I saw a few questions of people asking about the RNG different class drops, once you have all your legendaries and it drops a random legendary for another class, if that's going to be selectable. I believe the response was basically you can still buy the RNG token and you'll get an RNG class per se. You can't exactly select the class that you want a legendary for. At least that's what's being spread around as the answer to that question. But yeah, it's kind of sad for me on a personal scale because I'm still farming gold. The artifact power was nice, but the I wish they brought in the legendary selection a little bit sooner for people like yourself who are trying to farm those mage towers. But
right, at least 7.3.5, like after Antorus, or like but it just means I gotta run some LFRs and spend 6 hours running around Argus. So good luck to me, and to everyone else out there who's trying to get those mage towers. Good luck. And honestly, I've seen people with below 900 gear, 900 item level, do the mage towers. So don't give up. Which is speaking of mage towers, which is your favorite one that you've gotten, Zuanich?
Oh, I love my Sparkle Cat. The Sparkle Kitty
Cat is so cool.
Is so pretty. I got my Hulk Bear recently, or whatever your suited term for the big bear is, the big man
Hulk
bear.
Big man bear, werebear.
The werebear, yeah.
The first name that came out, I believe, at BlizzCon a couple years ago, but
yes, I call him Hulk Bear, but I like that. I did get my Hulk Bear with very minimal tanking experience, but as long as you understand what needs to be done in the mage tower, you can have that less of experience on that spec. I had a friend of mine that I taught him feral for 5 minutes and he was 880 and went in and got his Sparkle Cat. It's doable. You just need to understand what's happening more so in the mage tower than and then learn which spells and abilities you need to apply to combat that. And then the rest of it's just put out the numbers, get that damage out.
And I know for my buddy Mike was talking to me about the Agatha fight is actually exceptionally easy if you have that potion. There's a light potion or something that and it does damage to demons around you. And he showed me his damage dealt, and the potion did more damage than he did in the actual fight.
Oh my gosh, I did it without any potion, so I've never heard of this.
I want to say it's called light blood potion. So if you're doing the Agatha, if you're listening to this, basically if you're listening to this on the Monday when this podcast comes out, because if you listen to it later, this will be pointless. Light blood potions do damage to demons around you, and they do a ton of damage. So anyone who's doing the Agatha fight, Feral Druid, Fire Mage, that's all I know, get your hands on some light blood potions, because those will definitely help you with the fight.
I wonder if those are selling now. The gold farmer in me is now churning.
After you should go see what the cost is right now and how much profit you can make, because they are going to be flying.
I think I'm gonna wait till this podcast release, and then I'll put my sales down.
There we go. All right, let's dive into the actual podcast itself. That's all the news we have to talk about this week. Big news. That was important news. So go do your Mage Towers. This week's topic, episode 13, it's going to be another ramble fest. Like last week, Jack and I got to ramble about anything and everything, but this is going to be specifically focused on Legion and a personal overview of Legion, and what we liked, what we didn't like about it. And we're just going to talk about everything about Legion, because this is the end. These are the last couple of days of Legion, and I wanted to bring on a co-host who played from the very beginning of Legion, who is still playing now, and that is why Zuanich is here. So let's just dive. The first question I'm going to ask you, Zuanich, is, out of all the expansions you have played, where do you rank Legion?
Oh gosh, I'd probably Legion's, like, just from an actual story aspect, not from, like, I would say maybe like a Raiders aspect. It's been good. I've enjoyed it. No matter how much people hate on Panda, I enjoyed Panda. So maybe my input's not going to be great for a lot of people. I'd put it above Panda for sure. Kata will probably take the cake over everything that I've played. I've started in Kata, for anyone's reference, so I don't have anything beyond that. I've been able to explore the beautiful zones and play as such, but not when it was live. So it'd probably go right underneath Kata. WoD's going to go at the bottom. Everybody's going to agree with me probably on that one. I've enjoyed it. It'd probably go on my second for expansions that I've been able to experience live. I've enjoyed it. The story's been good. The zones were beautiful. They all had a significant uniqueness. I liked it. It was nice.
I find it interesting. A lot of people didn't like Cataclysm, and I think Cataclysm had a lot of good things about it, but people tend to remember, the absolute worst parts of an expansion and just paint it to that expansion as a whole. And the perfect example is Cataclysm, and more recently Warlords. And, most people can agree that there was some negative things about Warlords, but the base expansion, leveling in Warlords, was amazing. The zones were beautiful. The storytelling, for the most part, was very well done. The cinematics were the best part. Music was gorgeous. Endgame was okay. And then as the expansion progressed, that's when things kind of got murky. That's when things went down the drain. The massive content drought, that was huge. Mm-hmm. Cataclysm had a massive content drought as well. Dragon Soul, for good God, how long did people do Dragon Soul for? That is nightmare fuel. And that's why when people went into Miss Pandaria, Cataclysm was the flavor of the month to hate for those 2 years until Warlords came out. And now when people think of bad expansions, people think of Warlords, because there was a lot of things that weren't promised, and the end game, Tinan Jungle was a little bit of a salvation, and it was good, but that content drop was awful. So um, you rank it as Cataclysm, Legion, Mists, Warlords.
Yes.
For me,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna. I think again because it's from a personal standpoint. When say like the end of the end of Panda, when I was playing by myself, and it gets to that kind of like lull period where everybody's logged out, your guild's kind of empty. It's I felt like I had more things to do at the end of Panda than say like the end of WAD where I was just at a loss and it's like I finished my grind for flying. Now what do I do? So it was
Yeah,
just kind of
I agree. I agree with you on that. Panda was a
mhm.
little bit more forgiving with the reputation grind. You know, the reputation grind of Warlords is awful. Still to this day, awful.
Oh yeah.
Mist was a little bit more forgiving
Hmm.
for me, and I've been playing since January 2005.
Nice.
Legion is second place for me, and this is going to upset a lot of people, just like with your opening comment. But my number one is Mists. I loved Pandaria. Mists of Pandaria is the best expansion, and Legion. Honestly, Legion is probably tied with Mists of Pandaria to me because of how much I enjoyed. I can't choose between, and I honestly think the reason I'm leaning towards Mist is honestly just nostalgia, rose tinted goggles from a couple years ago, and Legion's more fresh in my mind, so I'm automatically going to go with the more nostalgic option. But if I were to take off my goggles and look at each expansion, I'd say I enjoyed both equally. Legion and Mists are, and people who've been playing forever, they're going to say, "What do you mean you didn't like Wrath or BC or Vanilla?" And I had amazing memories in those expansions, but that's also rose tinted goggles. It was a different game back then. It was different people back then, and to me, story wise and content wise, BC was awful. It was a horrible story. It was the funnest days of my World of Warcraft career. Doing Karazhan, I love thinking about my Karazhan memories back in the day with my guild. But story wise, it was awful. Vanilla, no one liked vanilla grinding except for the 3 masochists out there who loved vanilla grinding. Vanilla was not fun in terms of grinding or its raids. I had an argument with my friend about this. I said, back in the day, if you had a guild run for Molten Core and only 36 people showed up to your raid, you canceled the raid. You were like, well, that's it. You didn't really pug. You didn't really bring in other people. That wasn't a thing back then. So, but a lot of people had fun back. I had so much fun in Vanilla doing Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, amazing. But that's more with the social part of the game, the actual enjoying the content. You know, I started to really enjoy it in Cataclysm, in Wrath of Lich King and Cataclysm. But for me, Mists of Pandaria stood out as my favorite expansion. I'm going to say Legion's tied with it. Let's dive into favorites here. What is your favorite Legion zone? And that includes any patch zone.
It is. I mean, it's gonna be the druid in me. I have to go Val'sharah. There's no way. And I'm sure a lot of people are gonna agree. And maybe it's like the stereotypical answer, but man, Val'sharah was a great zone. I would have to put probably Azuna at like a strong second, just because I absolutely adore the little nods to Queen Ajara and everything that she has like as an involvement in that zone, but Val'sharah is going to take the cake.
Val'sharah, honestly, every expansion has like a forest zone, but Blizzard does such a good job. You know, when you think of a forest zone, top of my head, you have Jade Forest, you have Talador, you've got Eloin Forest, and every forest looks different. But I think the reason why Val'sharah stands out so beautifully is because they went for the dense, super dense wilds, and it's new age. Like you think of Feralas, and Feralas is this big, huge, steamy jungle over in Kalimdor, but it's an outdated zone. It's vanilla assets, and it looks a bit older. Mm-hmm. Val'sharah is kind of like the Feralas of the new age, and they did an amazing job of making you feel like you're in this, not claustrophobic, but you're in this very encompassing deep forest, but not in a scary way. You felt like, oh, until you got to the nightmare part, obviously, but
I was going to say, which part of the
um,
forest are you in?
yeah. And I remember thinking, like, I feel a little bit cramped in here. And then I looked around and I was like, no, I don't, because these forests feel like they're closing in around me, but they go on forever. They did a beautiful job. And that druid fantasy that they did, that they really painted well in Volshara, I think you're right. I think Volshara is going to be one of the favorite zones for a lot of people. For me, I got to say,
Don't say Stormheim. Don't do it.
okay, now I want to ask why. Why not Stormheim?
I just found it just so boring.
Really?
Yeah,
You didn't like Stormheim?
the cinematic was good. Like it was my last zone, so maybe it's again got that like bad taste in my mouth. Like, hey, I just want to be done. But it's like Odin's fascinating, but it's just it almost felt like weirdly just detached in my mind. I don't know why. It just left such a weird taste in my mouth. I can't even describe, like, it just felt like it was supposed to be part of something else. But in the end, it all tied itself together, and I applaud Blizzard. But it's probably my least favorite. My, like, when you first get into it and it's like the beautiful green, like, steep hills and, you know, the creatures and the giant statue and everything, like, it all was very pretty. And I love the introduction of the like the storm drakes and the dragons and the new species of that and everything. But it's just all seems Skullvald and all that. It's just it didn't sit with me, and I can't figure it out why. Maybe someone in the comments can tell me why I dislike that zone so much.
Here's why I think, and it's not my favorite zone, but I agree with you in that it had a weird feeling, and it's because it's the only, to me anyway, it's the only zone that is a factional zone, and the storyline is just totally interrupted by Gen and Sylvanas. So you get there, and you start off with this faction war stuff, and you're beating the crap out of each other, and then you go off and you are introduced to Javi, and you're running around with this little old Vrykul man, and so you go back to Nathanos or Gen, and then you go back and you help more and it's just a lot of back. It had a really tug and pull of, well, no, I want to invest myself in this Vrykul storyline, but there's also Sylvanas is running around twirling her mustache in every corner of the zone, and Greymane's screaming after her, so you have to go find him. And I felt that, you know, every zone has sub storylines in the zone, but I just felt that Stormheim did have that unnecessary divide. It did come well together with Ayer and Sylvanas and Helia's bargain and all stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I would have loved if the Sylvanas storyline maybe was spread out across a couple zones, so we got to see more of her, because I felt that she was kind of given the poor attention in Legion. She was in the beginning, she was in Stormheim, and then she was never seen again. But I love the Vrykul aesthetic, and I love the idea of Vrykul as an allied race. I would love to see Vrykul join the Alliance one day, especially the Stormheim Vrykul, because right now, two races that we've met on the Broken Isles have decided to join the Horde. So I would love to see some to see, especially after what Sylvanas did to Ayer, I'd love to see the Vrykul, and because there's a new queen of the Vrykul now. She's when you finish the Mage Tower questline, she survives, the daughter of Skovald, and I would love to see her come back in the storyline, and she leads a faction. But I can see what you mean. Stormheim definitely, I didn't like how it took away from the Vrykul storyline. Overall, though, my favorite zone, I have to say, is Suramar.
Okay.
And I think the reason I love Suramar is because it was endgame, so I didn't feel like I was crawling towards a goal. I didn't feel like it was, not that the Legion zones were crawling, but as you're leveling, even though you got to pick whatever zone you wanted to, 110 was the end goal. And no matter what, if you didn't see 110 and you were over 100, you were climbing. But in Suramar, you were 110. That was the just, you reached the top of the hill and it was just a plateau. You were running around, and I just loved. We're going to talk about this after with the art direction of Suramar, but I just loved everything about Suramar, and I'll really dive into why I love Suramar when we get to the art direction of this podcast later on. Cinematics. What was your favorite cinematic? Any cinematic, all the way up until Argus.
All the way up until Argus.
Even let's count the sword too. Screw it. The post, like the Horde and Alliance dinner feast, and
sure,
that's all part of it.
Right. Man, I'm gonna bore you. I'm just gonna chalk it up to Val'sharah again. The Ysera cinematic. Every time I've leveled many tunes on the stream currently, and we constantly do Val'sharah first. It's just the way it goes. Every time we hit 98, we get our artifact weapon and we go to Val'sharah. That is the thing. And we watch that cinematic together. I turn off my webcam because I cry every time. I just get so emotional for that cinematic. I will listen to the soundtrack, the song from that cinematic. It's probably like it. I can feel my heart just like clawing right now, just thinking about it.
You know this. You know what the song. You know like what the name of the soundtrack is, right?
You know what? People are gonna smack me for it, but I just have it favorited on YouTube, and I don't know.
It's the Night Song cinematic from, I believe, Cataclysm.
Really?
And most music is written, like most cinematic music is written for the purpose of that cinematic, because it follows whatever the flow of the cinematic is. But if I'm not mistaken, Night Song was actually, and I believe this was said on stage at BlizzCon or in a discussion at BlizzCon. I remember basically they were like, well, we need soundtrack for this music, and Neil Acree said, what about Night Song? And it just absolutely, it's one of those things, and I kind of, reason I love the cinematic so much, and just that little fact is so interesting to me, is because when I'm doing a Lost Codex episode and Jeff says, here's the animation, here's with your narration, and here's all the visuals. When he's adding in all the sound effects, I go in with the video and I start listening to different WoW soundtracks while watching the video, and I try to pair up what fits perfectly. And sometimes I get the perfect match. Like the visuals I see on screen and the soundtrack I found fit so well together. It's almost as if Russell Brower, Neil Acree, Jeff and I created this perfect masterpiece. And apparently, I don't remember where this was said, but I think Night Song is, obviously a little bit tweaked and stuff, but Night Song is the Val'sharah cinematic music, and it just fits so perfectly. And that was actually probably one of my favorite soundtracks from the Cataclysm CD, and watching Val'sharah for the first time and hearing Night Song, like I was both saddened by what I was seeing on screen, and then like nostalgia rush back to Cataclysm, and I was like, oh my god, there's so many emotions going on right now. So I honestly think that the Ysera cinematic is going to be a lot of people's favorite cinematic.
Absolutely. It's like, I exaggerate you not. After watching the cinematic enough, I went to a tattoo parlor. I have Ysera's crown, her crest, turned to be the shape of, say, like maybe a new moon, and her constellation is on my ribcage. That is how serious I take that cinematic.
That's really cool.
I got to turn off that camera every time, because people will see me cry, and no one wants to see a crying girl 7 times over.
At the anniversary for Legion's 2-year anniversary, you should do a live stream where you watch the cinematic on camera for the first time.
God, it'll be the new Markiplier meme. I can't.
For me, my favorite cinematic, Taron Gregory's team, the whole in-game cinematics team blew it out of the water in Legion. Like they always have.
Mm-hmm.
Warlords had a lot of good stuff. Mists had a lot of good stuff. But Legion, they just hit you. The Sylvanas Greymane cinematic, so satisfying. The Broken Shore, good God, that Broken Shore. I wish I had done a live face recording of that, because even I still get the hair on my neck standing up when Varian slaps the scroll into Greymane. When Greymane's desperately yelling Varian, Varian, and then the look on Varian's face when he slaps the scroll into Greymane's hand is like, oh God, like what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And still it is Vol'jin's death. I might not have been the biggest fan of Vol'jin, but like the music in that cinematic and like the transition where it's like top down and Sylvanas is standing in front of Vol'jin's corpse and the fires are roaring around her, and then it transitions and the fires are dead and you can see Lorthamar carrying Vol'jin away and she's left in the dark. It's so powerful. I'm basically going through all the cinematics in my head because I'm trying to decide right now. Val'sharah is just a heart-wrencher. I really love the Nightborn cinematic, the Suramar one, the introduction and the brief history.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we saw that in comic form, I thought it was really cool to see Ajara in a cinematic and to see Thalyssra before she became a Nightborn. I loved the Gul'dan cinematic with Illidan. That was just satisfyingly cool to see. I'm going through it all in my head right now.
Nope, that's okay. Do what you gotta do.
I'm torn. I'm torn. If we're not going to go for the Broken Shore, because I love the Broken Shore, I want to say either 7.2 or 7.3, with second place given to the Argus cinematic. And here's why. 7.2 cinematic with Kil'jaeden was huge. Seeing Kil'jaeden on screen for the first time in cinematic form and having his doubts about Sargeras be so sudden, so abrupt, where he's arguing with his boss on the phone. That was a whoa moment. When it showed Kil'jaeden watching Velen, I was like, okay, here we go. Now Kil'jaeden's going to do his mustache thing and be a villain. And he's mad at Sargeras. He's disappointed, which it tied up so well with that end cinematic on the Kil'jaeden fight. Kil'jaeden saying to Velen, I was always envious of you. That was I didn't think Blizzard was going to kill off Kil'jaeden then, and they did. Or maybe they didn't. But
they showed us his legs. He had to go now.
We knew he had feet. That was it. It's like Ragnaros. We saw Ragnaros' legs, and he was gone. And I love the 7.3 cinematic because we got to see young Velen and the dialogue between Illidan and Velen. And I know Final Boss, I know Bay is a huge fan of this. Him and I got to geek out at BlizzCon about this. And there's a moment in the 7.3 cinematic, and Illidan's being a shitlord. He's taunting Velen. He's just being a dick. He's got the smirk on his face, and Velen gets all aggressive and slams his staff down. Then they fly to Argus, and Illidan gets one more comment, where's your army of the light now? And then the ship appears and gets shot down. And Ramul says, like, what are your orders, Prophet? And Velen does this 3-point look where he's looking down, he looks forward, and he looks at Illidan. And he looks over at Illidan, and Illidan is not smirking anymore. Illidan has no smile on his face. There's no taunt. He's just giving Velen he just said previously, you have to forge your own destiny, and now he's giving Velen he taunted Velen for running, always relying on the light. Little smirks. But now, in this moment where it matters most, Illidan is just staring Velen down, and there's this look in Illidan's eyes of, you need to make your choice now. And jokes aside, all my taunting you aside, decide now. Right now. And then Velen says, we make our stand. For the first time, the Draenei are standing their ground. And to me, that little moment of Velen's panicked 3-point look over at Illidan, and then Illidan is just giving him that glare. Oh, that's one of my... I don't know what it is about that little exchange. I love that exchange. And I'm going to try to have Jeff put this on screen right now so you guys can see. It is so powerful, and I love it. The Zero cinematic, obviously, that was cool. That was a big revelation with the light. And then the Antorus, the Argus cinematic, where we get to see the Pantheon and we get to see Sargeras in full form for the first time. That, it might not be my favorite cinematic, but it's one of the most impactful, and I don't mean that as a joke with the sword. I mean, we got to see the Pantheon, literally the Titan Pantheon, for the first time ever in cinematic form. And I don't know, it's just seeing Sargeras rise out of the clouds like that was a big, holy crap. It was just a big moment for me. So I'm going to have to say 7.2, 7.3 with an Argus finale. And that's if we don't count the Broken Shore, because the Broken Shore still, it started everything off. That was such a roller coaster. Legion just had so many good cinematics, and the bar has been raised, by the way. Now,
oh yes,
oh god, Battle for Azeroth, and we are actually hours away from seeing those cinematics. If I'm correct in my prediction, whatever encoding they have is going to be quickly overcome on Tuesday, which means there's going to be a lot of spoilers. And here's a little bit of a warning for a lot of people. Taryn Gregory posted this on Twitter. Every cinematic you see has context to it in the zone and in the storyline before and the storyline after. And so if you love watching these cinematics, consider waiting. Consider waiting until you've done the zone. Consider waiting till you see it live in person. I know everyone's trying to get to level 120, but just wait those 45 seconds and watch the cinematic. Don't skip it, Mike. Don't skip it. Calling Mike out right now on podcast.
Does he skip cinematics?
He skips cinematics, the son of a bitch. He just hits the escape, and I'm like, you cannot be friends with Taryn Gregory and escape cinematics. That's just
Is he
not
one
possible.
of those people where it's like, you can just watch it on YouTube later, it's fine?
That's exactly what he says.
No. I have a friend like that as well. I can't. Nope. We're not even friends anymore. Nope.
Good.
You can't sit with us. You can't.
You are not. Sit at the back. Sit at the back of the BlizzCon room. We won't stop them from going to BlizzCon, but they can.
We're not saving you a seat during the opening ceremony. That's what's happening.
That's what it's come to. But honestly, consider waiting for these cinematics, because context is everything. And to build up to it, I did not watch a single Legion cinematic ahead of time. I watched it all live. I knew there was a cinematic involving Sylvanas and Greymane in Stormheim. I didn't know what it was about, but I knew, I saw the brief thumbnail on MMO Champion and Wowhead, but I waited. I held that's the reason I did Stormheim first, was to see that. Then I went right to Vol'Sharad because I knew there was a cinematic there, and then there was no cinematic in High Mountain or Azuna. So consider waiting, because context, and now that this is an expansion based on factions, there's going to be cinematics only for Horde and cinematics only for Alliance.
Oh, definitely.
So let's pump your brakes. Consider waiting.
Oh, they definitely should. If I had gone into Val'Sharah having already seen that cinematic, I think my whole viewpoint might have been different. The emotions that went through, because just being a druid lover here, having Ysera show up right in front of me, just, she got called and she got beckoned. I was so excited. I was like, yes, the queen is here. And then just to have her be gone.
Not only gone, but you had to kill her yourself.
I know.
That was the worst part.
I was just sitting there. I'm like, can we just go get Malfurion? Like, hey, can we just let her destroy a couple of things? Enjoy, we can figure it out later. It's fine. We always figure it out. We're like Scooby-Doo here. Can we just go get Malfurion for the time being? Nope.
We have to kill her.
Yep.
All right.
It would have been different.
I'm gonna put a bar on this for your favorite character. You can't say Ysera. We need a new answer. Who's your favorite character in Legion? Specifically, a focus in Legion.
My favorite character, man, that is tough.
And it doesn't have to be a main character. It doesn't have to be a cinematic character. It can be a minor character if you like. A lot of people are going to say Runice from Azuna.
It's I'm horribly negative, but I could think of my least favorite character.
All right, let's start with that. Who's your least favorite character?
Oh boy, everybody that knows me is gonna know I hate Jail Rivermain. I hate her.
how,
I
how can you hate that old lady? She's
despise Jail Rivermain. I'm sorry to whoever voice acted for Jail Rivermain, and I'm so sorry. And I know it's so much work, but I can't quest with her. I have to put her on mute. I can't. I don't like the voice lines. I just don't like her voice. I don't know if it's just runs very monotone to me. I can't. I I will speak over her for her lines to give her voice some essence, but she is my least favorite character in all of Legion. Jail Rivermain.
You heard it here first, folks. Jail Rivermain, bottom of the list for Legion.
Worst character in Legion.
Gul'dan's above her, for crying out loud. Holy moly. Xavius, the one who's responsible for Ysera's corruption, is still a better character than Jail Rivermain. Oh, God. All right, who's your favorite, then?
Oh, gosh, now I have to... God, you know... I really... Gosh, favorite character. That's so hard. Do you have one in mind already?
I was hoping you would have like a little bit of a longer answer so I could focus in on mine.
No, you can't. Okay. You know, it should be I could easily just cheese in Illidan in there because Illidan's just a snack and I love him. But I really enjoyed learning. If I were to say like a character that I enjoyed walking through, learning about, and having, around so I can learn more about them, I really enjoyed Ferondis.
All right.
I liked, which is one of the reasons I think Azuna is probably like my second favorite zone, is I enjoyed learning about the outcome of someone who opposed Ajara, and we actually get to see and interact with them today and how his people reacted and their mindset. I enjoyed Ferondis. He was a little bit of a crybaby, I understand, but if I were to pick someone that we met in Legion and got to interact with, I might have to choose Ferondis.
Interesting. Think about like a main character as well, because I just realized favorite minor and favorite major character. And Ferondis was a main character in Azuna. Now that you bring him up, one of the reasons I loved that whole zone was because a lot of Ajara's supporters ended up betraying her. Suramar as a whole said, screw you. Dathramar Sunstrider, back in the day, who becomes, he leads the elves across the sea and they become the High Elves. He was a highborn. He was one of hers and he said, screw you. And nothing really became of them. She didn't really have time to reach out and punish those who were disloyal to her, but with Ferondis she was, and she was able to, and I thought that was interesting that in the wake of this massive Legion invasion, she's trying to open the portal for Sargeras. She knows of Ferondis' betrayal, and she takes a little bit of a trip over to the province of Azuna and says, you know what? Screw you, buddy, and does a whole lot of damage. I thought that was interesting because out of the other two people that we know that betrayed her, we didn't really see any punishment from her, and rightfully so. She was distracted, but it was kind of cool to learn that she wasn't fully distracted, and she did go after one of her dudes. I'm gonna say one of my favorite characters in the entire expansion. I loved and this might just be because of my love for the Vrykul aesthetic, but I loved Odin's story. And it's one of the main reasons I love Chronicle 1 so much is, and I'll be the first one to say, Odin is a dick. Like, he is capital Lord Commander of the Dick Army. But he's necessary for Azeroth. And you know what he did to Helia was horrible. It was awful. But, and there is a but here, she chose, you know, this war, this vengeance that she had for Odin in the middle of a Legion war. You know, Odin was horrible and cruel and vile towards Helia. He forced her to become a Valkyr, and she harbored this deep hatred, which is why, with the help of Loken, she was able to trap him up in the Halls of Valor. But ultimately, Helia was the villain in the end. And a lot of people want to kill Odin, and it's like, no, we don't need every single character who's friendly to us to be a good character. Odin is this godlike being of Azeroth, and he's like Zeus. You know, he's done horrible things, but in his eyes, and he was right in a lot of cases, you know, he said, don't trust the dragon aspects. They're not good. This is not going to end well. And look what happened with Malygos, Deathwing, the two main instances of, and, you know, Nozdormu's corruption through the Infinite Dragonflight. Only Ysera and Alexstrasza didn't really have any bad fate for them until Legion, and then Xavius comes along. So I loved Odin's story, and I loved learning about, if you run around Stormheim, you can actually find some books, and they have the tale of what Odin did to Helia, but from the Vrykul's perspective. So in Chronicle, we know Odin forcibly tortured Helia and twisted her into this vile, horrible monster. But from Odin's perspective, if you read this little book in game, he comes off as a hero, and he saved her from the Shadowlands, but she was too far gone and she was too corrupted, and Odin loved her dearly. And, you know, it's basically the history is written by the victors, and Odin won this battle, or at least the Vrykul who wrote the history did. And you got to see these different, and, you know, Odin is totally a jerk. He's the one who tried to, you know, who assassinated or sent assassins to kill Skovald's daughter's, I guess, his other son. And, you know, she's the reason she was attacked by assassins in the first place. Odin is a total asshole, but I thought, man, this guy needs to be around more often, because I want to see what he can do for Azeroth. And I'd love to see him return to the picture once a big enough threat comes along. It'd be pretty OP to have him in a battle against the Horde, because I don't know how long that battle would last. But
hey, now
I'm just saying, if Odin decided to pick a faction,
oh boy, we would have some problems.
there would be a lot of problems, because the Alliance would have all the Valkyr now. Have you decided on a main character? Or another character, maybe an even smaller character?
Man, I was so lost in your Odin coverage. I completely forgot that I was supposed to be thinking of one.
That's okay. I think so I'm going to just highlight a couple of smaller characters that I enjoyed seeing. Yeah. I loved the little attention Romul was given on Argus, played by Darren DePaul. It was really fun to have him kind of talking in your ear the whole time. And what's interesting about Romul, and I think I've said this before, is Romul was first introduced into the lore in Warlords of Draenor. He was that Draenei in Shadowmoon Valley who had a little crystal satellite, and when you talked to him, it started a little encounter where a whole bunch of wolves attacked him. And if you defended him, an elite wolf came and you killed the elite wolf, and then he becomes a follower. He's actually he has the automatic jewel crafter trait for your follower list in your garrison in Shadowmoon Valley. That was alternate Romul. And we don't really know if this is alternate or main universe Romul, but to me it was interesting that this character, who becomes a little bit of a smaller main character in Legion, was first introduced as an alternate character, not a main universe character. Usually it's main universe and then we see their alternate form. This was alternate universe and we see their main universe form, which I thought was a little bit cool. But I just liked seeing him around on Argus. That was pretty cool. I thought Kil'jaeden was interesting. I liked seeing that little bit of doubt in Kil'jaeden's eyes. That was something that I'm glad Blizzard explored. I wish they would have explored it a little bit longer. And again, we'll come back to this with Suramar, but there's so many characters in Suramar that I just fell in love with, that you really got to know intimately through this entire entire zone, this entire experience.
I definitely think the Lystra was a beautifully done character. I
Absolutely.
enjoyed meeting her and learning about her so much more than I thought I would.
For a character who didn't exist before Legion, she was definitely fun to kind of meet. And of course, Turalyon and Illyria, I'm excited to see where their storyline goes, because they have we didn't really, anyone who's played WoW almost knows nothing about them because we've never seen them in WoW. We only know them from the original books. So it's fun to see these legendary characters return. Where are we going to go with that? And I'm really excited for Illyria's storyline and Turalyon's storyline for the future. Velen, I think this was Velen's expansion, and there was a lot of hard moments for Velen this expansion. The realization that his son was part with the Legion, holding his son's body.
I wish they gave that moment just a little bit more.
A cinematic. Can you imagine that in cinematic form?
Exactly. I just want, I feel like if it was just a casual, just a say like your standard World of Warcraft player, they would just glaze right over that. Like they would miss what just happened and how impactful that is to Velen, because
for him to say that's my
enough.
son, you're like, whoa, like, why are you attacking me, Velen? Like, why are you helping this dude? And then holding him. And here's the thing. Rakeesh did not die in the Twisting Nether. Rakeesh did not die on Argus. So it's possible we will see Rakeesh again. And I have this theory that the Eridar threat isn't gone. I think it'd be cool to see the Eridar, with Sargeras imprisoned, the Eridar in some ways seek alliances, or, it'd be really cool to see a former villain faction reach out. And just, to put this out there, Kil'jaeden died in orbit above Argus, very close to Argus. So you could argue that he was practically on Argus. And demons are supposed to die when you kill them on Argus, but because of the actual Titan Soul Argus itself, Sargeras' infinite army was regenerating even if you killed them on Argus. And in the Illidan book, Illidan says, if we kill them on Argus, they die. Turns out that's not true because of the Titan Soul. So I have this theory. What if Kil'jaeden's not actually dead? What if he was kind of cooking in the pot there in the regeneration chamber? And I just putting that thought out there for you guys who are listening. What if Kil'jaeden's what if Archimonde is dead? Or maybe Archimonde's not dead. We don't know Archimonde's fate, because Blizzard said he did the final phase in Warlords was in the Mythic, was in the Twisting Nether, but the cinematic wasn't. So they left that open. But with the whole Argus Soul on and Taurus plotline, maybe Kil'jaeden didn't bite the bullet. Just throwing that out there. So maybe we'll see maybe he's half formed. Maybe he was regenerating and he's all deformed now and he's all gross looking, and we'll see a different Kil'jaeden in the future. Not a big, strong, powerful soul patch Kil'jaeden, but a broken,
kind of a
cool.
hide in the shadows. Don't.
How cool would that be if Kil'jaeden seeks us out as like allies? Not that he's.
I was
going to
say, would he come back with a vengeance or with a hand open?
That's the thing, is his final moments with Velen, and that was the other one of the hard moments for Velen was being there when Kil'jaeden died. Like that was so. I was disappointed that Kil'jaeden blew up, but I wasn't disappointed how it happened, because I wanted to see more from Kil'jaeden this expansion. But that final moment where he says, "I always envied you." Kil'jaeden joined Sargeras, and Archimonde just wanted power. Kil'jaeden was logical. He was a master of the arcane, and he, very much like Elisande, I want to say that he looked at every possible outcome, and he even says to Velen, I did not think he could be defeated. I don't think there was any other option. And your vision, your faith proved me wrong. He goes, hopefully you proved me wrong, or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so powerful, and I would love to see that returned or explored one day. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, just keep dead characters dead," but you know what? Kil'jaeden didn't get enough spotlight, especially with that nice little twist on, you know what? Maybe Velen is right moment, that thought that Kil'jaeden had. I would love to see Kil'jaeden reach out one day if he survived.
That would be interesting. I would just want to see how they do it. Go ahead. What is what?
What is your favorite, not appearance-wise, but your favorite artifact story-wise?
Oh boy. I've done quite a few. I think the only ones that I haven't done are the ones for Death Knights and the ones for Warlock. And a lot of them, fortunately I have to call it out, are sort of repeat scenarios, though they have their own stories.
I agree. I was kind of disappointed that I had to go to Duskwood for the 7th time.
Yes.
With the Dark Riders for the 7th time.
Yes.
Like, come on.
Gosh, probably, even though it's that same-esque scenario, the Shadow Priest dagger, which I will butcher their name, so I'm not going to say it.
Xal'atath.
Thank you. The Shadow Priest dagger I found to be so fascinating, and I wish I was able to look into it more. It would be up on my list, as well as, again, I'm just going to tip my hat to the druids. The Claws of Ursak are going to be probably up there. I just enjoy seeing those guardians and being able to visit him and work with his brother and interact and have the introduction to the nightmare and how it's affecting him and all the above. It was very unique. If I were to pick a unique one, the one that I thought maybe was most unique and holds a favorite place in my heart for that reason, and then pick one where the actual story might have to do with something bigger than just obtaining a weapon, it's probably the Shadow Priest weapon.
I agree with you on the Shadow Priest one. Xal'atath is probably the winner of potential what-if scenarios. You know, there's so much, and what I love so much about her storyline, and shameless self-plug moment, but for anyone who hasn't seen our Xal'atath Holocore episode, check it out. I'll put a description below. Have you seen our Xal'atath Holocore episode?
I want to say you made a feral druid one, right? You made the Fangs of Ashmain.
We did.
Oh, you made all of them? Oh shit.
99% of them.
Oh, okay. Well, I watched the Fangs of Ashmain one, but I did not watch the Shadow Priest.
So the Shadow Priest one, we actually took a very different approach on. So in our, and most viewers will know this, but on our channel, the kind of the fantasy, the aesthetic of our channel is we have the Codex with the page flipping, but we've also got the Holocore, which is this sort of Titan projector-like device, and it's a faster paced video. And what we decided to do was, with the Xal'atath episode, rather than me, the Lost Codex narrator, talk about this Shadow Priest dagger, we thought, what if Xal'atath herself sombra hacked the Holocore and narrated her own episode?
Oh. And
so what we did is we got a good friend of mine, Diva Gregory, an amazing actress. She actually played the voice of Xal'atath, and so I start the episode normal. It's me talking, and then Xal'atath corrupts the Holocore, and she talks from a first-person perspective of her entire history. And we did it right before BlizzCon last year. It was probably one of the funnest episodes we've done, because I had to write this script using the lore of Xal'atath, but from a sassy, wicked first-person point of view. And we learn in her story, in Xal'atath's story, that she's responsible for so many things that's happened in lore. She's responsible for the Troll and Akir war starting. She's responsible for the corruption of Grim Batal. She's responsible for Natalie Celine learning about the cult, creating the Cult of the Forgotten Shadow and all that stuff. And there's so much more, so many more whispers that she has. She refers to, the Battle of Katanth between N'Zoth and Yasharaj, and how Yasharaj won that battle, but N'Zoth is the ultimate victor because he's the only one left alive nowadays. There's so many things about Xal'atath that are kind of like, good God. I hope they explore Xal'atath in the future. I hope with this overloading of her and the artifacts with Sargeras' sword, I hope that she's, if any artifact gets to come back into lore, I hope it's Xal'atath.
I wonder. You mentioned us overloading our artifacts. Is that going to have any effect on her at all?
Right? Like, that's probably the one person we shouldn't overload with power, is a sentient, horribly powerful blade. I feel like Shadow Priest dropped the ball with that cinematic. All you Shadow Priests who decided to drain the power of Sargeras, I know you were trying to do good, but that probably wasn't the best idea. Also, Arcane Mages probably shouldn't have done that either. That's a little bit scary with a Lunith there. My favorite weapons are actually two weapons from two classes you said you didn't do. There's a Warlock weapon that the Scepter of Sargeras was an amazing weapon to get into your hands. And you haven't done any of the Warlock weapons, have you?
No, it's the only two classes I'm missing are the Death Knights and the Warlocks, and I've heard they're a good time. I haven't made it.
So what I recommend you do is, before you do the Scepter of Sargeras on your Warlock, go do Elefar Archimond, and then do the fight, because Gul'dan's dialogue changes if you're the Slayer of Archimond. He refers to you as the Slayer of Archimond, which is kind of cool. He acknowledges, and only if you've killed Archimond. And for a moment, it looks like you're going to be joining Gul'dan. You're going to be joining the Warlocks. He says, "Oh, you've swapped sides," and it's really cool. But the weapon I didn't think I would enjoy so much. I really like Thalkiel, the talking skull. That was cool, to find out he was Archimond's boss. We probably shouldn't have empowered him either. That's probably another mistake as well, now that I think about that. There's
a lot of these weapons we should have just left alone.
Yeah, agreed. But Uthalesh, the Affliction Scythe, is really cool. And the reason why it's so cool is because Uthalesh was the name of a dreadlord. He was the name of a rebellious Nathrazim who decided to say screw you to Sargeras. And so Sargeras basically imprisoned him in this scythe. And the thing about Uthalesh is, as it wreaks damage, its wielders always lost control of it, and the weapon itself absorbed them into the actual scythe. So there's thousands, millions of souls inside this weapon from all the people the Legions killed with this weapon, but also its previous wielders are just sucked right in to the scythe itself. And actually, Deadwind's Scar, where Karazhan is, the reason why that whole area is dead is because of the Affliction Warlock weapon. During the War of the Ancients, a Eridar, Necrolite, she shows up with the scythe, and she uses it and creates this massive rip in the ground where all these ley lines are, which is why Karazhan's built on that spot. But what's interesting is it implies that this weapon is a weapon Sargeras fears. Maybe not inherently is scared of, but he's unsure, because every single one of his generals who's wielded it gets absorbed and eaten by the weapon itself. And inside the weapon is the original Dreadlord who Sargeras imprisoned first, and you can just hear him, and you can't hear him in game. Sargeras can hear him laughing, just his maniacal laughs, as this weapon is even too powerful for the Legion, which I thought, that's pretty cool if Sargeras himself is kind of like, ooh, this is bad.
And we just empowered this thing.
And we just empowered another well. That's another bad idea. And let's just add another horrible example to the list of things we should have empowered. But I thought Apocalypse, the Unholy Death Knight weapon, was really cool. It's a Nathrazim crafted rune blade. And we know those aren't ever good things. Frostmourne, legend, worst possible weapon in history. So we decided Death Knights were going to go get another Nathrazim crafted rune blade. And this weapon is literally it's called the there's a couple titles for it, but it implies that it's destroyed worlds, that Nathurzim have shown up and corrupted nations and spread plague and diseases and horrible things with this blade alone, and that nation after nation has crumbled before apocalypse. And Death Knights go out of their way to look for that weapon and then empower it with more of Sargeras' power. So there's a lot of mistakes that were made in this last patch. This last couple weeks.
Something we did wrong. Very, very wrong.
This is gonna bite us in the ass.
Is this what Il'gynoth meant? With our Magni just wanted to empower all these horrible, horrible weapons?
Maybe, actually. That'd be cool if that was exactly what Il'gynoth was referring to. Artifact appearances now. What do you think is the coolest one? And you could use any form, you could use any different appearance. What do you think is your favorite one? And why is it the
Hulk Bear? No, it's not the Hulk Bear. Though I do love the Hulk Bear. It's probably going to be my Lunar Call, my Balance of Power Boomkin weapon. I don't think there is a better weapon that can encompass a Boomkin than strapping a giant crescent moon onto a stick made of basically branch and putting it on a boom chicken's back. It is
a very to me that's almost what the Scythe of Elune should have looked like. I do like the original look of the Scythe of Elune, but the Balance of Power one I thought was exceptionally more druidic in appearance, and I love the way that looks. So interesting choice, good choice. For me, I have to say, and this just might be my inner war song, my inner orc speaking, but I loved the Balance of Power survival weapon, the spear of the Alpha. It's like a wolf head, and it looks very orcish looking. Loved the look of that one.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the Holy Paladin's Balance of Power weapon, which looks like the default skin matches the Judgment armor perfectly, which is why I want to see an HD Judgment set. That'd be amazing. But to me, that looks so cool, so gothic Warcraft 2 style Paladin. Loved the look of that one. I'm just going through all of them in my head. So many of them are so good looking. I loved the Balance of Power Feral Druid, the tiger, the
jungle cat.
The jungle cat. That one just looked really neat. That looks like the perfect troll form druid.
It is. I wish they would give. I've been preaching for. I know they've constantly redone and updated little tweaks to the cat, but man, that mohawk needs some help. It needs help.
And honestly, the Balance of Power Feral Druid is what all trolls should strive to get, because I'm actually I'm earning that so that on my Zandalari Druid I can use that. Although I do like the Dino Cat, I do love the Balance of Power one for that. I think the Balance of Power questline was just, there's so many good appearances for that. I loved, as you said, the Reinhardt Hammer.
The Mage Tower. Oh, I'm sorry, but I have to say the Mage Tower, no matter, there's some love-hate towards it. The Mage Tower for Marksman Hunter is very pretty. Again, yes. I use the word pretty because it's pretty. That's the only way to describe it. I enjoy more of like an earthy hide in the trees kind of aspect to my hunter. So having that beautiful like wooden carved bow with the vines and the flowers, just it was a good bow.
It was a great throwback to Ruck Dalar, the level 60 vanilla hunter weapon that hunters had to do at max level and back in vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
There was not a legendary, but a epic quest I had to do to get this bow with vines and stuff on it, and that was very reminiscent of that. So I agree, that one was a very original, rustic looking bow for hunters. I just had one in my head and I forgot. Oh, the hidden artifact appearance for protection paladins. It's the Draenei looking hammer. It's the crystal mace.
Yes.
That one I have used. That was literally the only reason I leveled my protection paladin. I was going to level him, unlock the paladin armor from Warlords, the upgraded paladin Draenei looking set from High Mall and Blackrock Foundry, unlock the hidden artifact, and then never play him again. And I just fell in love with the way it looked, and I'm still using it to this day. It is one of my favorite weapons because I love the Draenei so much. It looks like the Hammer of the Naru in one-handed form, but like beautiful HD. And to me, I would love to see that in a two-handed form. That'd be dope.
What I have to, you gotta give a nod to is the Woolamancer.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Fair.
We have to mention the Woolamancer.
Even aside from it being goofy, it is a very ornate looking weapon. Aside from the fact that it's a sheep head, it's a cool looking weapon. I dig it. Even if it is supposed to be a little bit of a meme, a little bit of a joke, it is the Woolmancer staff is pretty cool.
The cute little side storyline. I wish a lot of more of the hidden appearances had that. It was inviting. It was goofy. It was good.
I almost feel like the hidden artifact, the hidden appearances, some of them were like they were meant to have storylines, but then that was changed in Legion's development because some of them do have in-depth storylines and others just do not. Unfortunately, the artifact for the Protection Paladins does not. You find it literally in the Nightfallen scenario in Suramar.
The Resto Druid. Go ahead.
I was going to say why there was a Draenei in there. That makes no sense. But what's the Resto Druid one?
You plant a plant in your order hall, and it's RNG. Yes.
It's very lackluster.
You have to have one of the particular upgrades, so it was just kind of sad when you found out and you had to go back and reset your upgrades to go back and set the certain upgrade, but you just plant plants. You play Farmville to get your hidden Resto appearance.
It's not as bad as the Hunter one where you just go to the vendor and you buy it.
How could I forget my beautiful Hunter hidden appearance that got trashed on for so long because people thought it was just outright silly.
It's a really cool gnome weapon, but Blizzard could have just made it that engineers found or made the parts for it or something like that. That could have been done better. Let's move on to favorite. What's your favorite raid?
Favorite raid. I think I would Nighthold. I have to choose Nighthold. Any particular reason? Just from an actual rating perspective, I probably have to tie Nighthold and Antorus. They were both fun to do. Just from an actual progressive rating perspective, they had the boss fights had a uniqueness and they were enjoyable from a rating perspective. If I were to go again with the story and the aesthetic perspective, of course I'm going to choose Emerald Nightmare because you got to take a peek into the Emerald Dream. But Nighthold and Antorus will probably sit on the top for me just from my actual rating experience. Unfortunately, Tomb of Sargeras was very blech. I enjoyed the maiden fight individually, but the raid overall was just not a winner for me.
Aesthetic wise, I have to agree with you on Nighthold. I thought that story wise as well, Nighthold definitely earned its spot. Tomb of Sargeras, I have a love-hate relationship with because I felt that the Tomb of Sargeras patch was less story-based and just more objective-based. You know, there was barely any story on the actual island itself. You saw more story by doing the dungeon with Illidan than really anything. And I would have loved if we got to sneak into, kind of like how we snuck into the Nighthold and we snuck into the center of Suramar and stuff like that. I would have loved to have snuck into the Tomb of Sargeras and learn more about it. And that's actually my favorite episode that I did for the Lost Codex was the Tomb of Sargeras episode, because I have this crazy theory about the Tomb of Sargeras It's not my theory. A lot of people have this theory. And I'll share it because I don't remember the last time I talked about this. But actually, maybe it was recently. I can't remember. But here's the theory. So we know the Tomb of Sargeras it's obviously very close to Suramar. In fact, it was just outside the barrier when the Sundering happened, and it went to the bottom of the ocean. Warcraft 2, Gul'dan comes along, and Gul'dan raises the Tomb of Sargeras from the bottom of the sea. That's why there's a lot of underwater parts and sunken parts, because that whole complex was at the very bottom of the ocean. But once upon a time, it was part of Suramar City, and it was the Temple of Elune. Now, when you walk in there, you see stained glass windows with the Pillars of Creation up there in the very first room. And I thought that to be very intriguing. Why are there Pillars of Creation on stained glass windows in a temple dedicated to Elune? And we know that the Pillars of Creation were found by the Nightborn, or by the Suramar elves before they became Nightborn, and they used these Pillars of Creation to seal. The Legion was actually trying to establish a foothold in Suramar when they were still allied with Ajara, and they were using the Tomb of Sargeras as a secondary site, basically a second Well of Eternity to bring demons through. And that's when Elasan went, you know what? No, screw you. And they used the Pillars of Creation, and they sealed that portal with those pillars. And then they said, screw you to Ajara, and severed ties. And I thought, what if it just didn't have an importance in the temple itself? What if they actually found the Pillars of Creation at the site where they built the temple? And underneath the Tomb of Sargeras, underneath the temple itself, you go from Night Elf architecture to Titan architecture, which was the coolest part. This is what I love about the Tomb of Sargeras, is you go from a Night Elf / demon corrupted temple down to Ulduar style architecture. And my idea is, and this goes back to Il'gynoth, the 5 keys will open the way. What if these pillars were found in this Titan facility, by the ancient elves who first established Suramar? They found this facility, and they found these Pillars of Creation, and then they said, hey, let's build the temple here. This is cool. Let's build the giant temple, and that's why there are stained glass windows dedicated to these pillars. And the thing is about Titan facilities is they're absolutely massive. Ulduar literally goes on for miles. All through Storm Peaks, all those little Titan, you can kind of see them popping out of the stone and stuff like that. That's all part of Ulduar's complex. So the theory is, what if that facility that the Night Elves accidentally came across with these pillars, what if that's the same facility that N'Zoth's prison is attached to? What if, and that's why the Naga, that's why the Naga are all around there. That's why if you look at N'Zoth's prison on the map in Chronicle, it's in the middle of the ocean right now because where the Sundering happened. But what if it's the same? It's not exactly where the Tomb of Sargeras is, but what if it's one giant complex? What if that same building that housed these 5 pillars from the Titan Keepers, what if that was found in the same facility where N'Zoth's prison was? And that's what I thought was so intriguing about the Tomb of Sargeras. I loved the inside look of the temple, but as you said, it was, aside from aesthetic and lore-wise, it was okay. Antorus was very cool. I loved the Titan part of Antorus. I loved absolutely meeting the Titans, going to Elunaria, Ionar's planet. That was a big whoa moment.
Interesting.
It's confusing. What is Elunaria? Where is Elunaria? Who is Elunaria? Why are you here? Did the other Titans have planets and the Legion just found them one by one? Is this Ionar's original planet where she kind of hatched from? Who knows? That would be cool if it's literally the original planet she was born from, her shell kind of thing. But meeting Varimathras was re-meeting Varimathras was interesting. A lot of demons that we faced in the past, we didn't get a chance to re-meet. We didn't get to see Jaraxxus this expansion. There's a lot of Dreadlords out there that we haven't dealt with. But Varimathras, we put him down. And of course, fighting Argus itself, that was a really cool fight visually. So I liked that. But I'm going to have to agree with you. Nighthold was pretty damn awesome.
Nighthold was good. Yeah, it's probably, I mean, again, just from like a rating perspective, the fights were engaging. They were fun. They were unique. Um, just starting in the sewer and moving your way up and having your bosses become, higher of importance in this city to the point where you're on the roof fighting Gul'dan.
Right? And you think about it, did we ever think that when we fought Gul'dan it would be on the roof of a city, a night elf city? No. That is not where I pictured Gul'dan's final death to be, but it was literally on the roof of a giant temple in a night elf city.
He just really likes rooftops.
He wants to be Spider-Man. All right, overall, what's your best memory, favorite memory, best memory of Legion? Funny moment, big moment, guild moment, anything that happened to you that you just stands out in your mind.
Oh, man. Shoot. Legion. Where have you left me? I would probably say I think it was, man, Antorus. I'm going to pick a fresh memory, I guess, because it's the first thing that comes to mind on the spot. But being able to be part of mythic kills for a guild I was participating with, and it's not exactly being part of their guild yet, but I was able to heal for them, and having the dog mount drop for myself and bring it back to my guild and be able to be like, hey, so I got my mythic dog kill, and by the way, this is my dog. And I'm sorry mythic you don't have one.
From Argus himself?
The hounds. I'm sorry. The
Sargeras' hounds.
Yes,
that's dope.
Yes, the Sargeras hounds mount. I'm sorry, I should have been more descriptive, use more names, but yes, being able to have my mythic kill on hounds and be able to participate in that, and then be prized with a beautiful dog mount that I was able to strut on for a while, since Antorus had not been out for horribly long, especially the mythic branch of it. Man, that makes me sound like an asshole. My favorite memory is getting a dog mount I could gloat around to all my friends too.
That's okay. Honestly, it was either going to be a lore moment for you or a rating moment, I figured. And, getting that one drop you want is always going to stand out in someone's memory.
Yes, I think a lot of my memories from Legion are going to be rating moments. There was a lot of ups and downs for the guild that I was in. I've acquired a new guild. It's really been a time for me to actually gain a community and a bunch of friends and guilds and create a name even on the server that I'm on. My time probably in Panda and WAD and even Kata were quiet times. I was kind of a floater, and to all of Legion, honestly, probably I could say was a good memory to be able to find people to experience the lore with and find a guild and a server and a place for myself within the game. Legion's probably going to leave some good solid memories for me overall. I can't pick one.
That's okay. That's all right. Honestly, for me, I want to say getting to Argus and exploring and visiting this famous world, as a lover of the Draenei race and of Eridar history, stepping onto Makari for the first time and going through that whole journey with Velen, that was very important to me lore-wise. And honestly, Argus, Makari, and Suramar as a whole are my fondest memories of Legion. I didn't have a guild this expansion, so most of my content was solo play, playing with friends, but not in actual any raiding guilds.
Right.
And the storytelling was just so awesome in Legion. A lot of people are there's some people who hate the direction storytelling went in Legion, but to me, this was, and I'm kind of one to agree that it was a little bit of a fan service expansion in certain elements, but that's not a bad thing. I loved that part of I loved Illidan returning, and I loved these small lore moments all across the expansion that had huge, Velen's son returning, and the Titans, who, if, none of us expected the last boss of Legion to be a Titan. Maybe we thought it would be Sargeras. Maybe in some weird way we thought it'd be Azeroth. But Argus being a Titan, that was a big shocker. So I just think that my favorite memory of Legion overall was just the flow of the storyline and these big epic chapters that Blizzard's really, really hit the head on the nail with. I think that would be my favorite part of Legion.
I think what probably people who favor Legion are probably going to defend on most is, I feel like Legion, especially with the artifacts involved, has a little touch of something for everybody.
Yes.
No matter your class, your race. Maybe the trolls are a little sad because, well, Vol'jin just died and they don't have too extremely much, but everybody feels like they have an involvement and a place inside this faction, or this expansion, somewhere, whether it be how your artifact is implemented or how your class or your race plays a role. Everybody has a place. It might not be as big as others, don't get me wrong. Some people may feel a little bit shadowed in this expansion as what happens in every other expansion, but I don't feel like the difference between who's being shined on and who's not is as large of a gap as it's been in other expansions, which is what I think kind of makes Legion feel comfortable for a lot of people.
I agree. And I think, honestly, that ties into our next moment, our next little topic before we wrap things up, is these storytelling moments where they not just cinematics, but where they focus on so many different parts of the classes and races. I think you're right. Everyone did have a little bit of a chance to shine, and that was totally the class fantasy aspect of Legion with the artifacts. I'm a little bit sad to see my artifact go, but at the same time, I'm excited to pick up other weapons. I'm excited for more weapon models. I'm excited for all that, but I thought it was a really cool concept for the artifacts. With the topic of storytelling moments, I want to just quickly go through a list of different moments. And to me, the expansion started off in such a violent, horrible way. We lose Varian, Vol'jin, and Tyrion all at once. And that was kind of a huge moment for, two ends of the spectrum. Varian goes out like a hero. Varian dies in this horrible, tragic way. And Vol'jin doesn't get that hero's death. And a lot of people think, that Blizzard gypped the Horde. And I saw, it was a tweet on Twitter recently that's the realism of war, is not everyone has a glorious, epic final death. Some people get stabbed in the back by just a mere footman, and that's how Vol'jin goes out. Now, we know Vol'jin's story is not over with Battle for Azeroth, but that was just the tragedy of the Legion's war and how much so many people lost. And I thought it was such a heart-tugging moment in lore to start us off that it really set us off. The Horde wanted vengeance for Vol'jin. The Alliance just lost their king. Paladins just lost, like, the last most famous paladin ever. And it was a strong start. And I think even for you as a Druid player, losing Ysera was another moment like that, in that it was that heart-wrenching tug that a lot of different people, classes, players felt throughout the entire expansion.
Yeah, I definitely think what they tried with the cinematics and the storytelling is really magical in Legion, because they really wanted to pull you in emotionally so that you would invest yourself into this game. Even like you said, on the Broken Shore in the beginning, the strategy that they went with, they could have shown us both sides easily. They could have made one nice long cinematic and shown us what happened to the Horde and the Alliance, but they wanted blood to boil on the Alliance side for the Horde, and they wanted the Horde to have similar emotions. Like I think I told you this story before, where my roommate was Alliance and I was Horde, and we both played the Broken Shore at the same time and almost killed each other in the living room about who abandoned who and why we abandoned everybody. And it was just, you had to see from a different perspective to finally understand what our main objective for this whole expansion was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be slitting each other's throats. It was fighting the Burning Legion.
And I think that Christy Golden really tied that up nicely in the book. Anduin's been wondering this whole time. Anduin didn't watch the Horde cinematic, so he's been wondering, why did the Horde abandon Dad? And Bane even says, like, it's not what it seems. But to the Alliance, that's exactly how it seems. And it was really interesting for them to try this sort of morally gray. That is a proper definition of morally gray in what happened there. So that was interesting. I think one of the most underrated parts about Legion are the class campaigns. And I feel that some classes got ripped off more than others.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of your Druid campaign?
It was...
You saved Malorn. Malorn was the focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good. I think what might make people feel gypped in their campaigns is, how is this going to play into the rest of World of Warcraft in the future? And
right.
Depending on how much of a difference you think it's going to play is how much you feel like you're actually making a difference doing your campaign. So I liked it. Again, being a Druid fangirl, you could say, it was a nice nod. I enjoyed it. Love Malorn, everything about it. It was fun and insightful. But again, it's just to me personally. It's not going to, I haven't done it and I'm like, wow, my mind is so blown. Like, this is going to change. Like, I'm going to have so much of an effect on the future story because of what I did here today.
Right. And I think for Malorn specifically, you saved him from his nightmare. And I think the coolest part about that campaign is you got to see the War of the Ancients in the past. You got to go to his nightmare and you got to see all these other wild gods fighting in the past. And that was cool because, that's one of the biggest druidic moments ever, is this, all these wild gods, Cenarius, Ursoc, Ursol,
Mm-hmm.
Goldrin, Aviana, all fighting the Burning Legion 10,000 years ago. But ultimately, you didn't save all of them because most of them came back. You just saved Malorn, and there wasn't a lasting effect. I agree. As a Warlock main, that was the first class campaign I did. Aside from stealing an army from the Burning Legion, like a little side army, and stealing a planet, which was cool, I felt that the Warlocks did nothing in their class campaign. We ended up enslaving the Eridar twins from Sunwell. So they're part of the Warlock forces now, and that's about it. And I didn't feel like there was a giant "we did it" moment. There was a "okay, now what?" I was like, "Oh, that's the end of the campaign." Okay. While I feel Paladins, and I haven't done the Priest version, but Paladins and Priests have a little bit of a crossover.
Mm-hmm.
Paladins had a really cool moment, and they were focused on Balnazar. Balnazar is an infamous dreadlord, one of the big names of the Nath regime, and the Paladins were like, "We're gonna go get them." And you go to Niskara, the Legion planet, and you save some captive Paladins. And then you go to this cage, and there's a mysterious stranger in that cage, and you open up the cage, and there's a dreadlord made of, like, purified by the light, and you're like, "What the hell are you?" And he's like, "Yo, what up? I'm part of the army of the light, and I'm gonna come help y'all. Be right back." And then he vanishes, and you're like, "What the hell was that?" You go back to your class campaign and your class hall, and you find out that the Legion is Balnazar is focusing in on Velen, and Velen's hiding in Netherlight Temple. and that the Legion is about to invade it. So the Paladins and Priests have a little bit of a crossover where they both defend Netherlight Temple, and the Paladins show up. So this big epic moment with Balnazzar in Netherlight Temple, and suddenly the ship pulls up, and Lothraxion teleports into the Netherlight Temple with all these Army of the Light forces. And you're like, what is going on? And there's this epic Dreadlord versus Dreadlord fight. You still don't know what Lothraxion. You're just like, I don't understand you, but I accept your help. And you kill Balnazzar. Balnazzar is dead, forever dead. He was killed in the Twisting Nether, so that is a big name crossed off. And it was a really like, damn, this is cool. And then you got to learn a little bit more about Lothraxion in the audio drama with Turalyon and his best friends with Turalyon. And Lothraxion still has a lot that we don't know about him, so I'm excited to learn more about him. I did the Hunter one, and the Hunter one you hunt down Hakar the Houndmaster, which if you've read the War of the Ancients books, that's a bit of an important name, but
yes, the Hunter was my first one, so I remember that. And War of the Ancients. To me,
that was okay.
It was a nice little nod. Like,
it was a nod. That's exactly the best way to describe it. The one you're missing out on that you have not done is the best one.
Is the Death Knight one?
Oh, the Death Knight. And I haven't even done the Death Knight one.
I've heard.
It's honestly, I know what happens, and the Death Knights bring back 4 new horsemen.
Yes.
There's so much. If you have not done the Death Knight campaign, and I know it's too late for spoilers, but I'm just not gonna. I'm gonna just leave it. I'll talk about this next time. Go do the Death Knight class campaign, because I started it and it's so fun. Because when you're playing as your druid or your warlock, if the warlock you're serving the warlock, the council of the Black Harvest, and the druids you're serving the druids, but you kind of have a little bit of your racial pride. You're a troll druid or you're an orc warlock, but you're siding with your class. Death Knights, your faction does not matter. You are not Horde or Alliance. You serve the Lich King, and that's it. It is an entire campaign that is not faction based whatsoever. And to me, the Death Knight campaign has the biggest effect on the future, I think. And I'm excited to see where that goes.
Man, don't tell me that. It's one of the 2 classes I haven't done.
Honestly, if this gets you to do it, then worth, because it is so good. You don't play as a Horde, you don't play as Alliance, you play as a Death Knight working for the Lich King.
You can't tell me to get a Death Knight with 36 hours until Prepatch. You
can do it after. You've got a couple weeks until the launch of expansion. You got something to tie you over for the next little while. Other big moments in the lore were Illidan's return. That was cool, even if it was short-lived. He wasn't around for very long. The Kil'jaeden return, I felt Kil'jaeden didn't really get as much as he should have in this expansion, considering he was involved with Gul'dan and the transition from Warlords to Legion. Kil'jaeden had a very small role. But ultimately ending on Argus and finding out that the Titans are not only not 100% dead, but captives of the Legion, and that the entire world soul of Argus is in the hands of Sargeras. It was the scale of Legion just jumped dramatically. It was, okay, the world's under attack, there's a lot of shit going on. Oh my god, we killed Gul'dan, we did it. Oh my god, there's more Legion ships. Okay, we're gonna have another invasion, and suddenly, nope, we're going right to the Legion homeworld. We are fast forwarding this entire invasion and ending this in one go. And I did not think it was gonna pick up in terms of speed that soon. I did not think that we were gonna go right to Argus and punch Sargeras's main source of regeneration for his army right from the get-go. I did not see that coming.
Since we have a Titan presence now, it's just kind of leaves that question of, are they going to recuperate? Are they going to come back? It's just kind of, I feel like, to me, it leaves them in kind of a limbo of, are we going to see them again?
I think we will.
Right?
We have to. There's no way they can't. And, Illidan, still around. Sargeras is imprisoned. He's not dead, which I thought was very, I thought if someone told me, oh yeah, this is going to be the end of the Burning Legion, I would have thought, okay, we're going to kill Sargeras. I did not see Sargeras surviving. So I think it's going to be a few years before we see them again, but I honestly think now that they're alive and they're using their power and the rest of Argus's power to contain Sargeras, it'd be interesting if Sargeras convinced them that what he was doing was right and that the Void is the true enemy. And maybe Illidan does come back to help us fight the Void this time. Because, you could argue that what Sargeras was doing was to prevent the Void from winning, but it was, he'd rather be king of the Ashes than let the Void take over. And so you're absolutely right. It does beg that question of not if they're going to come back, when are they going to come back?
Yeah.
Because all of them, including Agrimar, Agrimar in Chronicle was pronounced dead. Sargeras cleaved him in two with his sword and then destroyed the others, but Norgannon used this spell that sent their spirits back to Azeroth very briefly. So it was implied that maybe they were alive, maybe not, but Agrimar was dead. And even he's alive and good now. So the Titan Pantheon is alive and well and far away with Illidan.
Well used, questionably.
Yeah, alive and recuperating with stuck in a room with Illidan and Sargeras. So that was one epic moment, and I'm curious to see how that affects the long term of Legion.
I do. Just from probably this is more like a Blizzard fan servicey moment, but I really hope Illidan returns to finally have that awaited interaction between him, Tyrande, and Malfurion. I was really disheartened with how that ended in Legion, but that's a topic for another day.
You did that quest from the raid, right?
Yes.
And I agree with you there. Honestly, Illidan, Malfurion and Tyrande have a lot to survive between now and when Illidan returns. And it'd be kind of sad if Illidan returned and his brother was dead or Tyrande was gone. Or both of them are gone. That'd be awful to return to.
Oh, God. What if they were locked somewhere? Illidan would have a new mission.
Literally. Like, if there was possibility to save them, he would.
Oh, absolutely.
If Illidan joined the Alliance, if the Horde kidnapped Malfurion and Tyrande, and Illidan returns, that's another bad step for the Horde.
Oh, I would have to swap factions. I think that would be the last straw if we kidnapped Malfurion and Tyrande and Illidan returned. I don't think I'd have the heart. There's no way. My soul would break.
Half of it already broke with Ysera, and that would be the other half.
Oh, God. It would be the ultimate turn. But you know what? It's all what ifs.
What ifs. Overall, what would you rate Legion out of 10?
From which aspect? Or just
overall?
Oh, well, you said overall. Yeah. Man, I'd probably give it maybe like an 8. 8.5.
That's what I was thinking. 8.5. 8.5 to 9. Because there were some moments where I was a little bit, but overall, I think it was a rebounding off of Warlords. At the end of Warlords, Blizzard asked the player base, they said, we know we let you down with Warlords, and we give us one more chance. And they said that right before Legion came out. And I think they deserve that chance. I think they've redeemed themselves with how Legion ultimately turned out. Story-wise, game mechanics-wise, raid, everything as a solid expansion. 8.5 to 9 out of 10. And I think Blizzard, you did a good job, Blizzard.
I definitely think well. The 2 would probably be for something minuscule like loot RNG and legendary system, but
yeah,
overall,
agreed.
If you take out the lull moments in the game where there wasn't much to do, if you condense Legion into what it is content wise and just put it all together regardless of the time, it would be a solid 8.5 for me.
I'll even go on to say that the time wasn't even as big as an issue.
It wasn't.
Because the content drop was almost non-existent in Legion compared to other expansions. Now, every expansion was about 3 to 4 months old before it kind of started to get stale. And then another content patch dropped. And obviously, you could argue 7.3.5 wasn't a huge content drop. It was allied races and some other stuff. But from launch, announcing Battle for Azeroth to the end, at BlizzCon, to the end of Legion, which is this Tuesday, it is the shortest gap between an expansion announcement and the end of an expansion that they have ever done, ever. And I think Blizzard deserves a little bit of a kudos to that. I think that considering we had, good God, so many months of Icecrown, so many months of Dragon Soul, so many months of Siege of Orgrimmar, and so many months of Hellfire, well done, Blizzard, on getting Battle for Azeroth into our hands much, much sooner than later. I think we're in agreement. 8.5 out of 9.
Yeah,
8.5 out of 10
yep.
to 9.
Yep, we'll just have that flash nice and big on the screen. 8.5.
8.5.
8.5, 9. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. We'll 8.5/9 out of 10. It's a not perfect, but considering everything, last expansion, a lot of the dropped balls, content dropped, and just overall awesomeness, Legion was, because we're now at the end, one hell of an expansion. So good job, Blizzard. Good job. Yay! Sound effects. Cue sound effects for confetti and
confetti. Poppers. Fireworks. Can we get fireworks? Can we get forward fireworks?
Here in the Lost Codex Sanctum, we can.
Oh, great.
Anything is possible with Jeff's magic, he says, as Jeff grumbles and adds in the fireworks sound effects.
Jeff, may I request purple fireworks?
Purple
is that
fireworks.
A thing? I like purple.
Purple is actually a fair mage color, which fits the Lost Codex theme. We got blue, gold, and purple. That's kind of the thing we go for. So
perfect. Purple fireworks it is.
We'll see if we can make it happen.
Guys,
we're gonna bring Decoded number 13 to a close. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and thank you, Zuanich, for being here with us for the first time.
Thank you. This was fun.
And we'll definitely bring you back. Definitely. And for anyone who wants to check out Zuanich's information and content and all that stuff, Zuanich, where can they find you? Tell these people where they can find you. Not in real life, because that's creepy, but on the internet.
No, please don't. Please don't knock on my door. I am currently streaming on Twitch TV /Zuanich with 2 I's. So it's ZUANIICH. That is where I'm
you're also on Twitter, I believe.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter. Same handle, Zuanich with 2 I's. Twitter would probably be the best place to find me. I have my own Discord channel as well, which can be linked to from the Twitch. Basically, my Twitch verse would be the best access to all my social media and access to finding me best, unless you want to come find me flying around the Druid Order Hall on Kil'jaeden, US. Besides
Kil'jaeden,
that.
US. So check her out on Twitch. Her social media information is all going to be down in the description below. Go watch her streams. Go look at her Illidan Sims family.
100
all
babies.
The millions of kids. 100 babies, millions of kids on screen.
It's my Demon Hunter army in the making.
That's what Illidan's doing.
That's not canon, but we can pretend.
We can pretend. Thank you so much, guys. And when we come back for episode 14, we'll be in patch 8.0. So it's going to be a whole new world, a whole new era. And who knows what's going to happen in the next week. I don't think much story is going to happen in the first week because everyone's going to be overwhelmed, but I have no idea. So a week from now, our lives could be changed in a good way or a bad way. Probably not a good way, considering what we know what's happening very soon. Get your mage towers done. Get your achievements done. The clock is ticking. And if you listen to this after Monday, well, unless you're a bronze dragon, this is too late. You're already done. There's nothing you can do. We'll see you guys next week for episode 14. No idea what the topic is. We'll see what happens this week. And thanks again, Zuanich.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you later for episode 14 on Decoded, the Lost Codex podcast. I am Jesse, your host, and enjoy 8.0. Goodbye, Legion. We love you.